All right, then we're live, guys. So, hello everyone, and it's yet another Wednesday that we get to meet again on the Ikokay Lifetalks Hangout. Today we have a panel. We'll be discussing addiction. What are addictions? That's part of what we'll be trying to figure out. But on the panel with us today, I think we'll start with our very lovely Queen B. She'll introduce herself. Then Vincent is also with us, Humphrey, and again we'll have Madam Jane moderating for us. So Queen B, salimia on.
Mhm. Hi, everyone back at home, wherever you're watching us from. It's so nice to be back and to talk to you once again. My name is Queen B. I'm an artist. I'm a broadcast journalism student. I'm a film producer and a script writer. Basically, being part of this program is one of those things that I enjoy doing. So it's nice to
Come on.
engage with you. I can't wait to finish the talk with you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, and then again with us, I think it's all about artists. Today we have Humphrey. Humphrey, you can hear us?
Yeah, yeah. How you doing, guys?
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe just thank you for giving yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Humphrey Gontai. I'm a journalist by profession and also a journalism student. I work at a radio station called Judah Radio, where I have a show, a breakfast show, and I'm really happy to be here. And the topic for today is really something that people don't talk enough about. And I really, really want to be part of this conversation. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to interacting with our viewers and see how we can help each other. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone, Humphrey again with us is, if you guys remember from the last session, we had Vincent. So maybe Vincent, just for recap, kindly introduce yourself. Then we'll have Madam Jane take us into the session. Vincent, kindly turn on your microphone.
It's on.
I think Vincent is having a challenge with his network. So maybe what we can do, maybe Vincent, can you hear us now? Okay, so maybe Madam Jane, just introduce yourself again to the audience. But just for recap, Vincent is a cop, having served 15 years. From our last session, he was here with us, and we are glad to have him with us again today. So, Madam Jane, maybe just introduce yourself and the topic that we'll be discussing today.
Thank you, Mr. Muni. My name is Jane Joka. I'm a mother of two adult boys, aged 25 and 22, a wife. I've done banking from 1995 to 2013 for 18 good years. I quit the corporate world because of CFS. CFS is chronic fatigue syndrome, which many people don't understand. Well, went a bit down. I've gone through anything, depression, anything, call it. But I found myself quite passionate about mental health, very, very passionate about mental health. So now I decided to go again and pursue counseling. I left my corporate world to go and pursue counseling psychology. And that is Jane, in short. So, yeah,
Karibu sana Jane.
thank
Yeah.
you. So today we are discussing a topic on addiction. Last week we were on we discussed about some whatever we discussed last week, and I'm happy to say that I think you're all aware that the mental health bill has been signed into law. I think that was done sometimes last week, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
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 I quite follow some of those things. So today we are discussing about addiction. And addiction in short, is a condition of being dependent on something, either a substance or an activity. And we have two types of addictions. We have physical and we have behavior. Physical is like drugs, alcohol, tobacco, inhalers, that is physical. And we have the behavior. Behavior can be someone is addicted to internet, maybe somebody is addicted to pornography, video games, sex addiction, work addiction, is also an addiction, spiritual obsession, and here I'm not talking about religious devotion. There's something between spiritual obsession and religious devotion. Gambling, we have seen people who are addicted to exercise. Shopping can also be addictive. Those are the two types of addictions, that is physical and behavior. Physical is, we have seen it's drugs, alcohol, tobacco, the inhalers. It is when this person cannot live without these things. They're actually dependent on them. Behavior, they lose the self-control, or maybe we can call it maybe self-discipline. They have to go and watch, they have to go and gamble if it's gambling. They have to be in the workplaces. You've seen people who retire and they still go back to the same offices several years, Yeah. You have seen people also who are always in church. Sorry to say, but they're always in church. Sometimes it becomes an obsession, but not a devotion. So today we have seen what is addiction and the two types of addiction. I don't know whether we know how to identify the signs of people who are addicted. Maybe we can start with the ladies first. Queen B, how do we
Yes.
identify? How do we identify, or what are the signs?
Well, addiction is, let's say it's a complex disease. I say it's a disease because it develops over time and becomes like a disease whereby we find we need cure when we need to take someone to rehabilitation centers and stuff. So sometimes you can find that you're spending so much time doing something or engaging in a certain behavior. Like you said, addiction is of two different types. It can be of substance abuse or a behavior engagement. So you find sometimes you're spending so much time engaging in something, yet maybe you might not realize it, but mostly people around us realize realize that our behavior has changed. And then we also have the inability to quit, That is what addiction is. So if you find you're unable to quit from doing something, then that is also an addiction problem. Yeah, and then we have the inability to fulfill obligation. That is when you are supposed to maybe be somewhere at a certain time, but now you find that you're spending so much time engaging in this activity or abusing this substance, so you find yourself that you might fail appearing for maybe certain meetings or showing up to school and such stuff. So that can also be a sign of an addiction. Also, you realize that when you're being addicted to something, the tolerance is very high. That is why you end up spending most of your time engaging in this substance, because you find right now you tend to think it is benefiting you and not harming you, so your tolerance is quite high. So you find that you spend so much time onto this substance, and then you realize when you can't, when you don't have this substance or when you don't engage in this behavior, then you have the withdrawal. So withdrawal is also one of the signs. So you realize maybe if I don't drink, I get headaches or my hands be shaking. So you realize when you start having such withdrawal symptoms, or like if it's let's say like an addiction like shopping or playing video games, you realize when you're not engaging in this activity, it's like you're not okay, you're not feeling fine. So these withdrawal feelings and these withdrawal symptoms can also show you that you're addicted to something. Also, you
Thank you.
realize people who are sorry. Also, you realize people who are addicted to stuff. You will realize before they used to love to engage in certain hobbies, but then at the current moment, when they are in use of this substance or engaging in certain behaviors, you realize they no longer have interest in the hobbies they used to have. So those can be some of the signs of addiction.
Thank you. Thank you, Queen B. Gwantai, Queen B, as you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Queen B has said much about the signs of addiction. Assuming
Yeah.
that you have,
Alia, can you
assuming
hear
that
me?
a friend who has a behavior.
Humphrey, let's switch off the background noise, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So,
I'm saying that Queen B has talked about the signs of addiction.
yeah.
Assuming that you have a friend or maybe a close person who has some behavior addictions,
Yeah.
how are you able to identify that?
Yeah, first of all, you touched on the types of addictions,
Yes.
and there's a third one. There's a third one that we call impulse addiction.
Yeah.
Basically, impulse is something that causes something to happen more quickly, or a sudden uh, reaction or urge to do something.
A
Yeah, and
trigger sort of.
yeah, something that triggers somebody to do something. And this, you can see some people that get angry so quickly, people that get the urge to maybe steal something, and that becomes addictive because it's a something that happens without you even knowing. So that is also a type of addiction that mostly falls under behavioral addiction. And
Yes.
in terms of how you identify, when you have friends that are addicted to something, we have a priority change. Maybe some aspects of their lives, such as school, work, start becoming less important to them. And you see people missing school, missing jobs, their work, giving excuses. And this is just to go and do drugs or do gaming, like Queen B mentioned. Or yeah, so that's one of them. Then we have lack of control, where you find yourself that you cannot control yourself, and you want to do something but you cannot control yourself. So that's another sign of addiction with people that are around you. Then we have, Queen B talked about increased tolerance, whereby you cannot function without that thing you are addicted to.
Yeah.
uh, then we have increased risk-taking behavior. You're less more concerned about the consequences of whatever you're going to do. And you find that people just do this to risk their health, they risk their relationships, they risk their financial stability, whereby somebody can go out drinking even at 3 a.m., but they're married. So you see, they don't care about that. And we also have the financial part of it. For example, gambling. People do not really care how much they lose, but because they are addicted, and that's an increased risk-taking behavior. So they put all their money there because they want to gain some reward. And then we have the issue of withdrawal.
Yeah.
I think that's very obvious. You feel unpleasant physical symptoms and psychological symptoms. And you see these people actually, when you're doing normal things,
Yeah.
people did things that are supposedly to make you happy. These people seem like they are somewhere else. When you look at them, they don't look happy because basically they're not really there because their mind is used to getting happy using something else. So those are some of the things that you can identify around the people that live around you that may be into addiction. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Gwantai.
yeah,
Assuming now that we have at least all the signs, and something I want us to really talk about. And there are some things that are done not in our sight, something like maybe pornography, sex addictions.
yeah.
How can we handle that?
Yes, I think sex addiction. and pornography to identify how people really maybe are into that. It's really hard to know, but maybe if you're living with somebody, you will realize that maybe they lock their rooms at odd hours. You cannot expect somebody to lock their room maybe in the afternoon or so.
Yeah.
And these people, they spend more time with computers or internet access, and they become less, socially active. I think those are some of the signs that you can identify in terms of addiction to sex and pornography. Yeah.
Queen Bee, you have something?
Well, I'll say
Maybe
some addictions like those sometimes takes one to realize them themselves, because we also say even an addiction like an alcohol addiction, usually someone has to agree that they have a problem. So because sometimes you end up even taking someone to a rehabilitation center and they end up not reforming, or they come out of the rehab and they go back to using because you're the one who forced this person to change. So I think some addictions, because they are personally engaged, no one, most of the times you'll find like some of these behavioral addictions like pornography and sex are self-taught, they're
Yeah.
self-developed. So I think it can only take one to identify that they have a problem to actually curb it. Because even if I realize my friend has a sex addiction problem or a pornography problem, at the end of the day I cannot help them, because this is something they engage in personally. So I think we also have to realize some of these addictions, we have to deal with them from ourselves. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I would throw this to Queen Bee. Assuming now you are a mother,
Yeah.
and maybe your son or your daughter is addicted to these behavior things. Well, we
Yeah.
cannot say that we're not going to handle that. How do we handle
Well,
it from a parent perspective?
from a parents, I always advise my friends who are parents, or I always like to tell my mom, it's always great to have an open communication forum with your child, whereby even when you land maybe your child with a pornographic magazine, you will know how to handle it by engaging in conversation and not shutting down this kid or maybe punishing them heavily, because you find if it's an addiction, this kid will end up going back again and again to it even without your consent. So the best approach will be having a one-on-one conversation, which I think with the even education system right now, it's quite encouraging it.
Thank you for that. Can you hear me?
There is a noise.
Okay, okay. Ampre, let me throw this
to
to
be
you.
honest, Humphrey,
Yeah, I can hear
let's
you.
yeah.
Ampre, let me throw this to
Okay,
you.
let's try to shut down
About
any
the
background noise.
about sorry, about behavior addiction. How can you help a friend or maybe your small brother or your small sister? Because we have to talk about these things.
Behavioral addiction.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so basically, a behavioral addiction, people assume that addiction is only on substances, but addiction is also to activities that somebody might be doing. And
Yes.
there was an interesting factor in terms of substance. Let me go to substance addiction just for a few seconds, whereby we have prescription medicines. There's a prescription medicine called oxide. Oxide is mostly the primary ingredient in many painkillers, and is given to people with average or severe pain. So once you start doing that, you're given that painkiller, you become addicted to it. So that's also an interesting factor in terms of that. Uh, but in terms of helping people that are going through behavioral addiction, maybe a small brother of mine or that, you have to find alternative activities for them to do, because addiction is triggered by idleness. Mostly if it's my younger brother, when maybe they're not in school or they're not doing whatever they do. So you have to find activities, alternative activities for them to do, and maybe help them find an hobby or something that they love to do that is away from whatever they are addicted to. But first of all, you have to identify whatever they are addicted to, and you have to really approach it sensitively because many people many people do not really know that they are into addiction, like something like using the internet, using the internet, or rather,
Yes. Yes.
or alcoholism. People don't view it as addiction. Whether if you're asked right now to name like those things that people are addicted to, you start talking about maybe cocaine, heroin, and all those kind of things. But people will ignore alcohol because basically it's legal, you know. Yeah. So in terms of helping the people that are into addiction, mostly the younger people, you have to find the things that they love, the hobbies that they love, and find a way to accommodate them in terms of that. I know there's another issue like when it's a young person now, and
Yes.
maybe they love playing video games. Then maybe they are addicted to pornography. So you find out that. Then you buy them a video game to be doing when they're free, you see? They become addicted again to video games. So like convincing them to really like do other things, like go out there and play sports and maybe hang out with his friends and do activities like seminars and things like those. I think technically, okay, basically what I'm saying is that let's find alternative things for these young people to do. Things that will, if it's drawing, identify what talents they have, and as parents, let's try and equip them to be able to achieve that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something.
Yes, Queen.
Okay, one advice I'll give to parents, you see, mostly, even the type of addiction doesn't really matter as much as the underlying issue that is causing this person or this patient to chase that pleasurable feeling that now brings the addiction. So I think we should also want to know, why is this person first of all getting addicted? Why are they overdoing this? Why are they trying to avoid something? Or what is the underlying thing that is now causing this person to want that feeling or that certain satisfaction from whatever they are addicted to? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I don't know whether you've seen that the moment that you point out an issue to a friend or to a relative, you become an enemy. How do we approach that?
Sorry?
Vincent, Vin- Vincent, can you hear us? Vincent, okay, maybe Quimby just pick it up. What Vincent was saying.
Yes,
Can you
I
hear
can
us?
hear you.
Did you
Yeah, I
get
can
the
hear
last
you.
question, Madam? Did you get the last question, Madam Jenas?
Yeah, the
Welcome back.
network. My apologies. I think I've had issues with my
Yeah.
connection, but
Yeah.
I'm back. I
Oh,
think
okay.
when it comes to helping a relative or a friend, I think it comes to a point whereby you have to take the unpopular decision, and this is not just to take the capacity as a friend, but also
Yes.
as someone who want to help. Because most of the time, these things they happen subconsciously. That even our loved ones, they are not aware that they are addicted. So I think you just have to be blunt with it, and of course, at the end of the day, you still have to use wisdom and understand how far they've come and how far you've come with that relationship. And I think you cannot just meet someone today and start addressing their issues. I think it is easier when it is done with someone who they have been able to relate for a very long time. And for example, and I think Kara happens to be my friend, and this cuts across to all my friends, that we always have this deep relationship that I'll call you and ask you, like, how are you doing? How is it going? So when there's that behavioral change, I'll be able to know that things are not right. And I think we can start from there to address the real issues. So first, the bottom line is that you can only be able to help someone whom you've worked together. up and down. You cannot just approach someone when they are at their lowest level. The confidence level might not work out at that particular point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe just to throw it back because
Yes.
we are well into the topic of addiction, and we're already identifying the signs, and symptoms of someone who's addicted. But maybe just to pose it out, and I'll probably direct it to Madam Jane. What
Yes.
exactly is addiction? What leads to addiction? Because, like we've said, addiction is diverse. It could be alcohol and substance abuse. It could be pornography, or sexual. It could be anything. You could be addicted to anything, right? But then, what is addiction? Before we even start helping this person, can we understand what addiction is per se?
Well, if I want to say, Mr. Muni, with my age, well,
Yeah.
addiction is from mental health. Like I have talked about spiritual obsession, where I've watched several, maybe women of my age. we pop from church to church, or from this particular to this one, but there's still something under that we are not able to address, that is really eating into us. Either it is depression, there is something about mental health that we are not able to address. That is now why we move to addictions.
So
Yeah.
when you say spiritual, and
Yes.
when allow me to use that as an example, when you say even church and spiritual, that means maybe this person cannot do without church. This
Well,
person cannot, yeah,
this person one, I don't know whether you have seen somebody wakes up from morning and goes to church
yeah,
from morning until
yeah,
late at night, and you
mm.
really don't understand. Uh, is it really devotion, or what is it? You know,
Or they addicted to the behavior, because we said it's all
I
about
yeah,
behavior.
can.
they are addicted to the
When
behavior,
they,
or it's a behavior of running away from something. There's something there
yeah,
that makes me feel better.
For a
so you
better
find
word,
something
Jane,
that,
I'd like.
yeah,
Madam
Sorry.
yes,
Jane.
Kumbi.
For, for a
Let's
better word, I'd
let's
like
have
to
Queen
give you
Vivian.
the word.
Okay.
For a better word, I'd like to give you the word dependence. It's
Yes,
like they
yes.
are dependent on this particular thing. It's like without it, they cannot stand. So to
Yeah.
explain on what you are saying about those people moving from one church to another, you'll find most of them feel like they just need something to hold on to their faith,
Hold on to,
because
yes.
yeah, they just need somewhere to believe they are actually believing in God, to give them that reach, that physical reach of heaven. So
Yes.
most of them, they have that notion. So go
Yeah,
on.
Yeah.
so
So that's just one. We're just a bit specific. Coming back to you, Vincent, we're just a bit
Y-
specific on. We give it out again as an example, right?
Yes.
Just on types and forms of addiction. Because we said they can be so diverse, but it's going to the core of what causes addiction. You understand? Like what makes this person behave this way? What makes this person dependent on this? Is it the drug? Is it name it, right?
Mr. Moon.
What makes that? Yes.
So just to explain how addiction works from a technical point of view. Now, addiction interferes with the normal brain function, particularly something we call the reward system. Now, when you do something that you find enjoyable, your reward system in the brain releases a chemical we call dopamine.
Yeah.
Dopamine is a chemical that identifies what makes you happy or makes you happy. But contrary to many beliefs, dopamine doesn't actually make you feel happy. It reinforces to your brain what should make you feel happy. You get what I mean? So when this continues now, basically when you this starts happening when now you're doing something that releases a large amount of dopamine, like maybe doing drugs or that. When you do normal things that a human being that is not addicted is doing, your brain registers that there is larger amounts of dopamine. So when you do something normal, the brain releases lesser amounts of dopamine because it's used to releasing higher amounts when you do something that's like drugs or alcohol, or you watch porn or sex and all that. So basically, now when you do normal things, the body has now to make up for that dopamine that is not getting released. I don't know if you're understanding me.
We are getting.
Yes, we're getting
Yeah,
you.
so as you continue, so basically, as you continue doing this, now your brain now that gap that is created when you do something normal and you're not doing what you're used to, that's now when you start getting cravings for more dopamine in your brain. So that's where addiction comes from. You start craving that substance for you to be happy. That's why you see when you are maybe in an event, somebody that is used to using drugs, yani anakaa yuko, because now that thing is not in making him happy because drugs ndo zinafanya hiyo dopamine ikuwe released. So then you find somebody that maybe has done marijuana. They look very happy, and people like I said, these people are crazy. That's because the brain has identified marijuana as what makes you happy. That's when now it releases more dopamine, making that person look extremely happy. So I think that's what causes addiction in terms of can I call it scientific point of view?
Yes, that's very something.
Yeah, so basically, yeah. So that's
Vincent was saying something.
Sorry.
Is Vincent?
Yeah, actually, Gwantai has addressed the issue that I was about to address. It's about the dopamine and the reward system.
Okay.
And what you realize that dopamine is a neurotransmitter, or basically it is a good feeling hormone, and it is produced as a reward system to your body. So what happens is that when you get when you get addicted to something, that means that already your dopamine has been disrupted, so that it doesn't get released to your system naturally. That means it has to be triggered by something, and that's why you realize that when a large amount of dopamine when it's released in your brain, it gives you that feeling of being on the top of your mind.
Exactly.
So it reaches to a point whereby you have to depend on that trigger. And that's why you realize you get hooked either to alcohol, or you get engaged to behavioral activities that are so unnatural, so that you get it as a reward system or to your body.
Yes.
And you realize that when you don't have the right balance of dopamine, you feel tired and motivated, you're unhappy, you're easily irritable, you're easily agitated, until more dopamine is released into your body. And therefore, that's why when you depend on a chemical, the chemical makes your body to release that hormone. Now that's when you feel good. Unfortunately, since it is so unnatural, you end up either adding the dosage or doing much more of what you are doing. For example, what you are saying about people who engage too much with maybe church activities, that's the activity that they feel, it makes them feel much better. So they end up doing it too much beyond the natural way.
Yeah.
Madam Jen?
Thank you, Vincent, for that. Maybe I want to throw this to Vincent. You are a police officer.
Yes.
And we have issues. How do you help? We have issues with the uniformed officers. How do you help a friend? This is tricky.
Mr. Vincent, you're speaking on behalf of the battalion.
You have placed a big burden upon my shoulders. I don't know whether I have the capacity to give a bottom line of what it entails.
But how do you help?
From your own level.
Having worked in a bank,
Yeah.
I know I have several friends, and there are always issues. I think you get what I what I mean. Eh? How do you help a friend, a
Well, one,
colleague?
let me first create a case here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, our society has changed dramatically from
Yes.
what we used to consider success and where we are today.
Yes.
And in the case of police officers, there's always that expectations when you get that job. There's always a higher expectations. Remember these uh, um, how would I put it? Historically, it has been known to be a career for strong people,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
things have changed. We are not
Yeah.
even the training has changed. There's a there's a lesson that has been introduced called liberal lessons that have
Mm-hmm.
changed the entire aspect of police work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for people to the transition from doing the police work to interacting with the civilian, that's where now
Yes.
the changes comes in, and people now
Mm-hmm.
they end up interact by virtue of the work that we do. It exposes you to so many physiological issues.
Yeah.
And how do most of the police officers numb those issues?
Mm-hmm.
It is through alcoholism, and for those who cannot be able to do that, they end up
Yes, Vincent.
Still have Vincent? Okay, I think we may have lost Vincent, but maybe just to pick up on what he said,
Yes.
and just to look at it and not just look at it from a career point of view as being a cop. Let's look
Mm-hmm.
at it from a point of view like you, Madam Jane, said you've been in the banking industry for ages.
Mm-hmm.
We have bankers struggling with addictions. We have people from all careers cutting across. I'm with artists, and it's a good thing, Humphrey, and especially even the artists. We have
Mm-hmm.
people struggling with addiction from all corners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like something I think Vincent said, it goes back again to society.
Yeah.
What's leading? If we look at addiction as broad as addiction, we may not really get somewhere, but if we're able to narrow it down to probably, let's say, substance abuse or what did you call it, Humphrey?
Behavior.
Behavior, yeah,
Behavioral.
behavior change.
Behavioral. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What leads to that? Someone finished school while they were very okay. They didn't even
Oh.
used to drink. They
Mm-hmm.
went through campus. They were okay. They survived campus. Then in comes career. In comes family. In comes the real pressures of life,
Yeah.
and you will escape to them, to that which Humphrey said releases the dopamine in you, that which
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel okay as
Yeah.
per that moment. You know.
So
So I don't know, Madam Jane, just to give it a sense of direction. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. You have something, Gwentai?
yeah, I just wanted to touch on the point Vincent was trying to make.
Yes.
The issue of police officers going to drinking, and that is what we call escapism. And escapism is where you feel like your job, you're not happy, you're overworking, you're not paid enough. Maybe there's a toxic job environment, and now the only way for you to just forget that, maybe step away from that, is through drinking and doing drugs. And the more you do them, like we have seen, the more you do them, the more you get addicted to them. I think that's where addiction now stems from. Most people, I think, alcoholism, I think, is one of the biggest issues in terms of
Let's
addiction. Yeah,
let's address that.
yeah,
Let's address alcoholism.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So I think alcohol, like I said before, the problem with alcohol is that alcohol is legal. In many countries you can drink as low as 16, others 18, others 21. you know. So like when you look at that, it's mostly like, for example, in a country like the US, United States, more than 14 million, citizens are alcoholic. And now when we look at this as a problem in terms of now, because we're talking about addiction and effects on mental health. Now, when people start getting addicted to alcohol, when you start drinking alcohol, this changes everything about your life. If you're married, if you're in a relationship, if you're in school, whatever you're doing, it will affect you in one way or another. Most likely, you start if maybe you don't have a consistent source of income, you'll start looking for ways for you to to get that money for you to go and drink. And if you're in a relationship or you're married, you start getting home late. You start making excuses for you to go out with your, with your buddies to watch, football games and all that, But the real thing, you're going to drink. So that brings problem to your marriage, and when this brings problems to your marriage, it starts affecting you mentally, because now for that addiction, when you get home late, you're like, I have a right to come, at the time that I want. And you feel like this person is stressing you, and you start arguing, you start fighting, and this really affects you mentally, because now you'll not have peace of mind. You always know that I don't need to go home, Like that's an environment that I'm not happy. So I think most young people get into alcohol. Like I think everybody wanted to try alcohol when you finished high school, or when you're in high school. And when you go and start hanging out with friends that are doing alcohol, and the people that you hang out with, they define you. They say that you're an average of your five friends, So if you start going out to drink, this affects your academic life, maybe and performance as a student. So you'll get that you're not getting the good grades, you're not attending classes. Your lecturers or your teachers will start noticing this. If you're in high school, you start getting suspended. And all this will be a lot of pressure for these young people, because now if you're not attending classes, you start failing. If you get suspended, if you get like sent away from school, now this pressure comes to you, and this affects you mentally, because you see yourself as a failure. And all this stemmed out of that addiction that you had, because this led to problems that now start affecting you mentally. And when you look at this, when somebody gets sent away from maybe school, for maybe drugs, or maybe mostly alcohol, because we're talking about alcoholism, like most parents will not be like, we need to take this person to see somebody that can help them. They'll just try and discipline them, and then maybe after a few days, after the 2 weeks of suspension, they're back to schools. They're back to school. And even our institution, they do not provide enough tools, to really teach, or to really help people that are going through this. They'll be punished, yes, they will be sent away, but in terms of their mental health, all that pressure, how do we help them? So I think in terms of alcohol, there's a lot we can talk about. But basically, I think for me, if we want to look for solutions, we have to put up resources in our education system for us to help our young people, because these things, you pick them up from a very, 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 very young age. I remember when I was young, we went somewhere with my dad. I was in primary school. And then we went to a bar with my dad. Okay, like a few uncles of mine and my dad. And then a fight broke up. And my dad was always that person that when a fight is the one, he was big, he'll go there to fight. So
Last
me, I
man
was
standing.
so I was seated there, like, and he was like, like having a beer. So like when they told him, hey, Baba Humphrey, people are fighting here. So like he left the beer to me, like he put it in
Hold
front
my
of me.
beer.
Yeah,
Hold my beer.
yeah. So like I could have chosen to drink it, but now of course I could not have done that, and I was really young. So like the environment that our kids grow around, the things that they will see you doing, wataona hizo ndo vitu right wanafanya, So like I think we need to. It's a all big problem that starts from us, you know,
The society.
from parenting, from our teachers,
Yeah.
from our role
Yeah.
models, and all that. So yeah, basically that's my input on, you know, on alcoholism.
Queen B.
Yeah.
Queen Bee.
Yeah. Queen B. Hmm. Queen B. I don't know whether Queen B is still with us. Okay, maybe Madam Jane, you can input before Queen B joins us back.
Ampre, you said something
Yeah.
about. Oh, she's okay.
Queen is there.
Well, for me, I think yes. Can you hear me?
We can
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah, yeah. Loud and clear.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you,
We can
Queen
hear
Bee.
you. Queen B. I think she's having a slight technical issue.
Oh, I was
Maybe
I was
Jane just.
saying about alcohol addiction. You know, sometimes I'm saying with alcohol addiction, sometimes we also have what we call family history. We find
Yes.
sometimes some alcohol addictions can be inherited from the family history. You might find like a certain family has like four alcoholics. It's not by default. It's because some addictions like alcohol addictions can be inherited also. Sometimes you find like alcohol addiction can be brought about by peer pressure. It's just about what Humphrey was talking about, like the surrounding, sometimes can influence you to drink, including the friends that we surround ourselves with. Some people, I will say, for example, like me, you will never find me drinking alone. But when I am with friends, I will drink. That means I am a social drinker. So you find I am being influenced in a way, you realize. So peer pressure also contributes a lot to alcohol addiction. Also,
Yes.
sometimes you find that when you're stressed, which brings us about to mental disorders, like stress, depression. So sometimes when you turn to them, you can tend to be addicted, not because you wanted to, but because you needed it at a particular moment and you ended up drowning in it without actually realizing it. So, and sometimes also alcohol addiction can be brought about by early use. Some of us start drinking so early. By the time you're getting to the actual drinking age, which is, let's say, around maybe 25 and above, you started drinking while you're
There's an
17.
actual
So your
drinking
body,
age. Queen B. There's an actual
yes.
drinking age. I didn't know that.
Well, as per the chemistry
So,
or the biology of the body, yeah, you start, sometimes you might start doing it so early and your body maybe is gonna create the tolerance early. You realize some people
okay.
will drink for 40 years and their body will not create the tolerance, but other people will drink for just 20 years and the guy is a total addict. So it depends with the body. So I think that those are some of the things I can highlight, and also I can add on to family engagement. Sometimes lack of family engagement might push one to engaging into other stuff, of course, because family is who is supposed to be there for you. But if they are not, and you don't have that engagement with them, you find that most people you find engaging in stuff like alcohol are those people who have a bad relationship with their parents. Maybe you find that it's that son mwenye anaambiwagwa is always the black sheep of the family. You find them drinking. So sometimes lack of family engagement can push one to engage into such substance that lead to addiction.
Thank you, Queen Bee. Let me ask Humphrey or Queen Bee, how much? Well, we know our grandfathers, our fathers used to take alcohol, but things were not as bad as they are. What has changed?
Well, I can say for me, what has changed is the is the freedom and when people get it, and the respect that is in the society. The moral compass of the society at the moment cannot be where it was those years ago, because years ago, I will say the young men were not allowed to drink. Brew was for the older men. And so you realize the young men, their work was maybe to hunt, get meat, bush meat, maybe for the elder people, and for them it was to eat and drink and give them wisdom. So you realize nowadays you go to the club and you find young girls sending our fathers to bring ice cubes. So the like these older men engaging with daughters, or with people young enough to be their daughters, some of them their granddaughters. So I'll say the moral compass is not literally pointing to the direction of morals at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Queen B. Gwanta, you said something about
Somebody with okay.
Thank you, Queen B. Gwanta, you were saying something about some resources to our education system. How can that help? Or specifically, where do you want the resources under into the education system?
Yeah, so in terms of resources, we do have the Ministry for Youth and blah, 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 I don't remember. But they do have resources, both physical and non-tangible resources, like human resources. So I think if you look at a school, maybe I was in a school called Chogore Boys High School, and we were around 800 to 1,000 students.
Yes.
And there was only one guidance and counseling, person. And she was not doing this like exclusively. She was also a teacher.
A teacher,
So when you look at that, that is a little bit of under-resourced in terms of a person that can really help people that are going through this or can really guide them. So I think we need to get professionals in our high schools, in our primary schools, mostly high school. Schools need to have a professional counselor and guidance, person that is there specifically for that job and is getting paid for that job. I think if we can pay teachers to educate our children to get skills that they'll go out there in the job market and get employed. We can also invest into some social, and their mental health well, because there's no point of having money and going out there then you go and commit suicide. And also now coming back to the issue of how mental health affects you, how drug abuse or addiction affects your mental health. Basically, when people say that I smoke when I'm stressed, I drink when I'm stressed, that can basically be called self-medication, like you're treating your problems with the wrong drugs, So this is not a solution for you to solve your issues, because when you're feeling stressed, when you're going through something, or when you're going through a certain pain and you go and do drugs, this will be only a temporary solution. And when the highness of whatever you are taken, or the alcohol or whatever you are taken now, fades away, you start now asking myself, I'm still in the same position, So that's really, it's you up from, it's you from the inside, because you didn't really solve the problem that you are in. It was only a momentarily solution. Then you're back to that. And that's when now you'll find out that a big number of people that commit suicide, they had a problem with alcoholism, because now when they started going through these mental health issues, they went to alcohol or to using drugs. And the problem with that is that really does not help you, because it might help you forget your problems and all that. Because mostly when you do, maybe for example, like alcohol, it makes your brain and it makes you feel better, it makes you feel relaxed, but it's only for a few, for a few
A
hours.
short
Then
while.
you're,
Mm.
then you're, you're
Yeah.
back to that. So
Okay.
I think, because we're looking
Yeah.
at how addiction affects, brings out mental health.
Then,
Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's basically
then,
how I can, connect the two, addiction and mental health. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. One time. Social media influence in addiction and impact on mental health. What can we say? Can we say that
mm,
social media influence is it negative, positive? Can we argue it from that point? What is the influence?
okay. Maybe just now that we mentioned social media, let's
Yes.
also appreciate everyone who's in live, guys. Asanteni sana. You can see
Thank you,
Doreen
guys.
Mwendwa is there. You can also see Marshall Africa. Marshall Africa is saying he's glad to be part of the conversation. And yeah, so back to the question. Oh yeah, then we can also see Kopi. Kopi Vin is saying the uncles and the aunties. I think that was the point on Queen B made. Both the
Yes.
nephews and society, you know.
Yeah.
So back to social influence.
Social media
Uh,
influence in addiction. Has it
Social media
Yeah.
influence in
influence.
a negative way, in a positive way, Queen Bee?
Well, social media has both positive and negative impacts. Generally, when it comes to every field, social media will affect, in the good side and the bad side. So I'll say social media at some point ends up making some of these things or substances or behaviors that people get addicted to look cool. Some people will see people on TV popping champagne and they think, wow, that looks cool. So when this
That's a lie.
person gets money, they are going to drain themselves in popping champagne because they thought that looked cool.
And
Or
then selfies will be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and these people end up forgetting, like what we mentioned last time. Social media is just social media. Even
Social.
if you see me popping champagne today, doesn't mean I pop champagne every day. So people end up adapting these behaviors, thinking they cool. Actually, one of the drug that I have seen trend so much and be used because of social media is the vape. You've seen the shisha vape. You
Yeah.
see everybody smoking it and they're like blowing around patterns in the air, and you think, wow, that must be cool. I have to get that. So I've seen so many people at the moment addicted to this vape thing. I have friends who will have 1500 all the time to get a vape because they just want to blow. And I ask them, what's the thrill of this thing? They tell me, I just want to blow smoke, it looks nice. So you find that social media will end up, when it's on camera, it will definitely look cool because maybe someone will even add the slow motion and the effect, and you think, wow, that must be nice, that looks very creative. So and you realize these people who end up being influenced by social media, people with comparison complexity, like
Yeah.
comparison complex or superiority complex, because you want to feel cool, you wanna look cool to other people. At the end of the moment, you don't realize that what you're using is actually harming you. By the time you realize, you're a junkie, or you find that you've seen on social media the artists, maybe they're sniffing coke and they're having their time. Like, you see that there's this song that made people actually consume drugs a lot, that is called Ibiza. I don't know if you guys have heard of the song. The song talks of how this guy, I took a pill in Ibiza. You've heard of the song, yeah? So during the prime of this song, people would party really crazy because what they saw in that video really influenced them, and they're like, they just want to have the feeling that this person had. So I'll say social media plays a big role to people who have the comparison complex issues and superiority complex issues. So if you allow yourself to be influenced by social media, so it's definitely going to be a tool to influence your addiction.
Gwantai?
Yeah.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
There's a number of ways that social media can influence substance abuse. You realize that social media itself is an addiction. So when you're addicted to social media, uh, you tend to feel lonely. You tend to feel depressed because the kind of things that you see on Instagram, you see on Twitter and Facebook and all that, they make your life look. You feel like you don't belong in this world. You feel like these people are aliens. When you see,
Yeah.
when maybe you have a girlfriend and you go on Instagram and you see the type of girls you see there, you start thinking that you don't even have a girlfriend. But those people, they have fake lives, like Queen B, like really pointed out that whatever I post on social media is not necessarily what I'm doing or whatever, or whatever really I'm all about. So the issue of people getting addicted to social media, that leading to isolation and depression, that now makes them turn to drugs, and now they feel depressed and isolated. Uh, then we have the issue of celebrities. Now we know celebrities have thousands, others millions of followers, huh? And
Yeah.
most celebrities that will always post when they are partying and doing drugs, and people will want to do whatever they are seeing celebrities doing because these are their role models and they want to look cool like their celebrities look like, and
Yes.
that is one thing that in terms of exposes people that go on social media, and when you start looking at social media now and how this now brings now by mental health problems, the impact of social media on your mental health. Basically, I pointed out the issue of people posting fake things.
Yeah.
For example, in Hollywood, have you seen these Instagram models that post when they're in private jets? These influencers are. You've seen people posting when they're in private jets. Now in Hollywood, there's a building where there's a place that is constructed like a plane, but it's not a real plane. So you go
Yeah.
there, you pay like $20, you take a picture, and it looks like you're in a private jet. There's even food there, there's even drinks, and you go and post that online. Now, when you post this online to somebody that is following you, they'll start looking at their lives like you know, like they feel like
I'm not
they're
joking.
yeah,
Inferior, kind of.
they feel that they're failed, and this now impacts their mental health. They start now feeling that they have not achieved enough in life. They feel like they're worthless, and this also leads now to depression. And you can see how that connects to substance abuse and addiction. When you become depressed, you go and start using drugs, and I think that's the best way to bring out how social media really affects, influences addiction, and also, impacts mental health. And also we have things like gambling. Right now in Kenya, we have tens and tens of gambling companies which are online, and that's a form of addiction now. Social media itself as a form of addiction. That's how this now has affected our young people in Kenya, whereby everybody has the jackpot mentality that I'll keep trying until one day I'll win
Yeah.
maybe 50 million Kenya shillings, because they see that as the only way of making it out of the ghetto, of having a better life. And that also, you see how that affects the youth in terms of their mental health, and how they start using substances, and drugs, because
Okay.
some even steal money from their parents. Some start doing, just to get money to go and gamble. And
Yeah.
this really is
And
a
then,
pandemic.
yeah,
It's a pandemic in this country.
one time in the interest of time,
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a very important point, to look at social media itself as a form of addiction. And I don't know how we can control this. I don't know. 5-year kids, they know how to even download videos on smartphones. So I think now we need to as we finish this conversation, we should look at, like how can we really try and curb this, form of addictions that we have discussed. Yeah.
Thank you, Wantai, for that. For the interest of time, parting shot, Queen B.
um, I would just love to say, sometimes addiction should be realized first by the one who is addicted. So we should be keen on monitoring ourselves, our behaviors, knowing what is actually good for us and what is actually draining us instead of, building ourselves. So I still emphasize on the actual fact of knowing yourself first, yeah, before you like engage with other people and allow other people to change you in terms of peer pressure or surrounding influence. So let's take care of ourselves, let's take care of our mental health, and also let's keep on joining the Ikokay conversation each and every Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Wantai, your parting shot?
Yeah, so basically what I'd like to say is that I talked about the issue of having more resources for people to really deal with these kind of issues. And I think Ikokay, Lifetalks and all this, these are very free, actually they're free resources that we can share to our friends. Like maybe somebody is watching this live right now, you can share it to your WhatsApp status, you can share it to your Facebook, that's helping people, like, because sometimes some things we just need to talk, and when we talk about them, we really find solutions. And in terms of the environments that we're living in terms of addiction and all that, we need really to tusiangalie ule mse ako kwa familia yetu and say that this person, we start now isolating them and look them as a drug person, and we start treating them like that. And you even give them money when they say, hey, see, you're from Nairobi, so you give me just 100 shillings, like you're fueling, the fire, you're adding fire to the fire, but you're not seeing this as a problem. So we need to identify people that are going through this kind of addiction, personal friends, and maybe even our spouses, even our partners. We should not really like entertain some kind of behaviors in terms of if it's somebody you're dating, don't allow yourself to live with somebody that is an addict without you helping them, because the moment you keep keeping up with them, you're encouraging them to continue doing this. So let's always feel free to talk. In terms of mental health, we have a lot of tools for us to help each other. We have a lot of NGOs that have toll-free lines that you can call anytime you feel like you have suicidal thoughts, anytime that you feel like you're going through something. You can go online. I think I have them on my phone, so I'll share them so that they can also be shared in this platform. So we have a lot of resources. All we need to do is put awareness out there for people to really get help. And let's be good role models. Let's not preach, let's not preach water, and drink, how it goes. So like, let's try in our own capacity. Like a lot of people will view this, this conversation that we have had, and even to our kids, to our brothers, to see like we are punished without giving them help, when they get into this kind of thing. So basically, for young people, let's find whatever you're talented in. If you know how to draw, if you know how to shoot videos, you can even shoot videos with your phone. All you have to do is think about something that can keep you busy. As long as we have the tarmacking and the unemployment pandemic in the country with the high cost of living right now, let's try and find things that will occupy us and also add value to our life. Yeah. So basically, that's it.
Thank you, Wantai. Yes, we have to know ourselves first, as Queen B said. We have to take care of ourselves, because when we start taking these things so early, or we take in excess, then we may not say beyond the 40 years. Then I look forward for the day that maybe we shall have counseling psychologists in schools, in high schools, even in the primary schools, in churches, in hospitals, just like the way you see the the people who are going for ARVs in hospital, that they pop in and get ARVs, that people can go in an hospital, in a school, campus, pop in and get a counseling psychologist there waiting for you, at least for a talk in churches. That is my way of thinking. And another thing that will help the people that we see they are struggling, because many people are struggling with addictions. Let's hold their hands. I'm only a phone call away. I'm always available to help. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mr. Muni.
Yeah, I think I'll also put in my parting shot still on the same. Today, time, guys, apologies. Kidogo, we had some slight technical challenges. But then when we look at the issue of addictions, like we started with saying, it's a broad topic. It's not a topic that we can discuss today, touch on everything, and come up with a conclusion. This is how it should be. I think what we did today was just touch, on the, what do you call it, Queen Bee? Remind me, we just
It's
just
just a
touch on
touch
it,
of the
right?
iceberg, yeah. It's just
Yes,
a tip
that's
of the
our
iceberg.
yes,
Yes,
it's the
yes.
tip of the iceberg. Yeah. So it's just in first identifying that addiction is real. I think for me,
It
I would
is.
say it's in accepting that addiction is a disease.
Yeah.
Just like you'd go to hospital and say you have malaria, addiction is a disease. Don't look at that alcoholic guy in your family na anaitangwa mlevi na kila mtu. No, that person is sick. Huyo mtu ni mgonjwa, anahitaji usaidizi. And usaidizi yenye anaweza pata si dawa, atakunywa, ni kwanza kukubali shida yake ni gani, identify what the issue is, work on it
Yeah.
from that, because every addiction is different. Now, we're talking about alcohol today on a very general level, because we know alcohol is alcohol. But everyone is addicted to their own levels.
It's true.
Kuna mwenye anakunywanga tunusu, kuna mwenye anakunywanga hiyo ulisema ya social media. Could be, I mean, what was it? Ile ya kupop champagne.
Champagne.
There's someone who's popping champagne. It's expensive, but it's an addiction.
Yeah.
So it's
All
in the
is
same for
alcohol,
me.
yeah.
So it's in identifying what is addiction, what form of addiction are you going through. Then we can get into how do we help someone who's going through addiction. But first, by accepting that addiction is a medical condition, just like malaria, just like any other illness, it's a mental illness. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be
And we
it,
should not
for
be
me.
scared to ask for help.
No. And you should not feel bad because you're addicted. I mean, identifying that you're addicted is the first step of getting
The
healing.
first step, yes.
Identifying
Yeah,
that
for sure.
which you're addicted to. Like we said, right now we just narrowed it down to alcoholism, but there's a broad range of addictions that are out
Broad-based,
there,
yeah.
and everyone knows. I believe I don't have the statistics on me, but I believe everyone is addicted to something. Everyone
Yeah,
is
for
addicted
sure.
to something. So it just becomes unhealthy when this thing you're addicted to now affects not only you, but also the people around you. That's when now you need help. And there are ways of addressing this, which we'll be discussing on this same platform. So yeah, I think that's my parting shot for now, unless someone has something to add. I don't know. Humphrey?
Yeah, I think we didn't really get into the details, like you said. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So we can always find a way of now looking at specific addiction to specific things. Like we can even talk about addiction to gambling, addiction to alcohol. We've talked about alcohol, but we've not touched on other types of addictions. So I think we need to find a way to just be categorical in terms of now the discussion, like we identify specific, things that affect us in our society, because mostly like gambling, we can talk about gambling for the whole day. So like, I think we need to find a way to just, digress a little bit now to the specific categorical types of addictions. Yeah.
Okay. and deal with them economically. Maybe, Madam Zen, you can help us out in that. Today we've just handled addiction generally, trying to understand what addiction is, what types of addiction there are. But we
Yes.
can probably, and even guys who are watching us online will be following the conversations later. Comment, just guide us. This platform is for us. Like Vincent said in the other session, it's for us by us. We're here to talk about the issues we're facing, and if possible, give solutions. Based on our best experiences and our best knowledge of the same. So maybe Madam Jane in the next session, when we handle addiction, can probably narrow it down to a topic, and
Yeah.
then we can address it for that. And there'll always be another Wednesday, where we can drive on the same conversation. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So Quimby,
Yeah.
today I want to give you a challenge. Humphrey, you are already a presenter, right?
Yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
Ikokay, we said we get yesterday. Guys, you
Sorry?
people have been meeting Queen B. I'm just saying, guys have been meeting Queen B, but they've never really met Queen B, the artist, right? So she's the one who's going to sign off the session for us, but we also
Uh-huh.
want a piece of Queen B. Humphrey atasikiza, na niko sure ngoma atacheza kwa redio in the next, Queen B,
Uh,
yeah.
that was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Like
Yeah.
most of the times, I try to differentiate my lifestyle as Queen Bee and as Valentine. But all right, let's do this.
Yeah. Humphrey, we have background music from your side. Let's mute that and allow for Queen B.
So this song is a song called Liberation. It's about general stuff. Liberation, liberation, we pray for liberation, 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 we pray for liberation. Them use them and suffer them talents, no nature, they no ordinary matter in this country if we suffer. We need liberation, liberation, liberation. Yeah, so
Liberation. There you go. You have it from Queen B. We need liberation for this nation. And the only way we're going to get
yeah, let's
liberation is
let's
if
pray for
we
liberation from all
we
aspects
have
of
liberation. Yes.
yeah.
And it's going to come in all avenues, mental freedom, liberation. So, asanteni sana
Yeah.
guys for tuning in. We'll be here, same time, same place, saying Iko okay. It is very
Yeah.
much okay not to be okay. Cheers,
Yeah.
guys.
Same time next Wednesday. Okay.
Same time. Yeah.
Thank you.